A number of emperors had their palaces there. And so the Palatine Hill is really important, but it was in the Palatine Hill. In Dallas, we'd say it was in Highland Park where they built the temple to Cybele. Now, we come to a question. Why would they think that this Cybele, this mother goddess, if you will, from Turkey, was going to say it in the very first place? In other words, when it said, bring the mother home, how could this this deity, this female deity, way over in that part of the world, how could they be taking her home if she's from over there? See, this is the puzzle. This is what I have to explain, and this again is one of these convoluted stories that require me to go slow and careful if I can. And that is this. We go back to the Trojan War. Now, the Trojan War is maybe 600 years. Nobody knows exactly when the Trojan War was. This is, of course, when we talk about the Trojan War, we're talking about the one made famous by Homer in the Iliad and the Odyssey. So the Trojan War was a very great defining moment in those days. But what happened at the end of the Trojan War is really crucial to this story. So at the end of the Trojan War, Agamemnon and Menelaus and the Greek forces do this trick. And the trick, by the way, is perpetrated by and thought up by Ulysses. They decide, to do the whole Trojan horse thing and pretend to be leaving and all that, and then secretly come back and get inside the gates because the men had been hiding in the Trojan horse, and they open the gates, and then Troy is taken and then destroyed completely, utterly destroyed. So this means the end of Troy, but not quite, because there was one Trojan, royal branch, if you will, who survived. His name was Aeneas. Now, Aeneas was with his men on patrol, and they didn't happen to be there at the time, and they could see that Troy was just on fire and burning, and burned for days. And so Aeneas vows with his men that they are going to rebuild Troy. But they can't build it there. They got to find a new place. So Aeneas then leaves on a long trip. And I really will collapse this. 10 years. He's searching. But he finally finds a place to reestablish Troy. He calls the place Lavinia. Lavinia. Now, Lavinia is in what is today, of course, Italy. And there he establishes, or attempts to establish, a new colony. This colony is Troy. Only he calls it the New Troy. So in establishing this New Troy, he called it Lavinia, by the way. His wife's name was Lavinia. So it's usually in Latin called Lavinium. And so he establishes this place, but he's constantly fighting other tribes and people. Everybody, this is this prime land. This is really central Italy, very, very nice. So he then is finally dies of old age and passes it on and to his son. But this is his son has a lot of trouble. Anyway, his son has twin sons, and of course this is the famous Romulus and Remus. Now, Romulus and Remus, the story of Romulus and Remus is the key piece in understanding why the Romans believed they were bringing the mother home. So here it goes. Romulus and Remus, when they're born, they are seen as a threat because when they grow up, they will be the leaders of the Slovenia. And this is not good because there are many other people. So a plot is hatched that they will murder these twin babies. And the plot is so draconian, nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to, have the guilt of having killed his twin baby boys. So they come up with a new plan, which is they'll put the babies out in the river in a basket while it's in flood stage, right? So this tells you when it is. It's in the rainy season, which happened to be, the time happened to be the middle of February. So they go down the Tiber River, and they're in this basket. The basket is actually pretty waterproof, but the idea is that eventually it will go out into the Mediterranean and sink, and then nobody will be responsible for killing the children, right? So this is where how it sits. So the Tiber River then has in it a turn. So the Tiber is coming up to the north, then it has a turn in it like this. Right at this turn, there was a tree. And the water is very, very high, so it's a flood stage, and there's a tree hanging over the river, but now the river is up, in the limbs and so on. And so when Romulus and Remus come in their little basket, they come and slows down and they get stuck in the tree limbs, right? It's a big branch sticking out. And they're out there squalling and, nobody to help them. And then all of a sudden, a she-wolf, which in Latin is called luper, she-wolf, hears their cry, comes out on that branch, and somehow is able to get right over the top of the basket and gets close enough so they can suckle from the she-wolf. Very lucky indeed. And so they survive, and a day or two later, a shepherd comes by and sees them up there and goes out and takes the basket, takes it to his shed, and he and his wife and a sister, I believe, they raise the boys. So the boys are raised as shepherds. But somehow they know, they eventually find out who they really are. And so what happens, of course, is that they decide that they're going to do their settlement where that tree was, right there. Right? And so this is the setup. So they start building the settlement there, and they get into a big fight about probably something not that consequential. But twins usually get along real well, right? But occasionally, if they fight, one determines the other to win. And so they get into a fight, and of course, Romulus, I would say accidentally, he's trying to, fight his brother, but he isn't trying to kill him, obviously, but that's what happens. Hits a rock or something, and so Remus then is gone and just leaves Romulus. So he continues then to build this settlement, and of course, eventually it's named after him, Rome. So this is Rome. Now, so the biggest holiday of the entire year is a holiday celebrating this event. The salvation of Rome was the she-wolf, a luper. And they call their celebration the Luper Calia, the festival of the she-wolf. That's amazing, right? And so this is in the middle of February. How do we know it's the middle? because it was full moon. Now, today, they just arbitrarily would say it was around, because remember, the Romans are on the lunar calendar. So the lunar calendar is, you have the lunar calendar is starts whenever they see the first crescent, and that's the first of the month, and then the moon's at about the full 13, 14, 15 in there. And so this is the lunar calendar is very, very important. So today we would just say the 14th or 15th of almost done. The 14th or 15th of the month, but for the Romans, it was the day of their most important event, the Lupercalia. Now, when Christianity comes along, the Romans certainly don't want to give up this event, right? So, as with so many holidays, they take out the pagan element, stick in a Christian saint, and voila. And of course, what saint did they stick in? Saint Valentine. So Valentine's Day is really the Lupercalia. And it has all the features. And one more little detail, I promise to finish in under 2 minutes. In the Lupercalia, they had games. You know, this is what the Romans always did. The Greeks did this too. If you have a holiday, you have games. Because boys like games, right? I mean, there were women occasionally in these games, but mostly men. And mostly naked, by the way.
And the Romans were naked too?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, the Romans would do their games naked. But that's, again, this doesn't seem very important to them. It seems very strange to us, of course, but not to them. So, anyway, they had this game. And what they do, they get the young men, the ones who are really fast runners, and they would have look kind of like a grass skirt, but made of leather, strips of leather. And the leather strip is called let's see where I can put that. F-E-B-R-U. A feber. A feber is a strip of leather. And what they would do is the women would line up, and the boys would run very, very quickly through the women. But these are not just any old women. These are women who wanted to get pregnant. Because this, remember, is the time of fertility. The full moon. Full moon. Back in the ancient world, before we had artificial lights, women cycled with the moon. So the full moon is the time of greatest fertility. That's why it's always associated to this day with romance. And so they ran through the gauntlet, and if a woman could touch one of those pieces, leather, or even better, grab one, then she would carry that with her, and within the year she would be pregnant. That was the idea. So to this day, the month is called February, from that strip of leather. Unbelievable, right? Well, we didn't get very far today because I digressed way too much, but we will.
We always learn something.
Yeah. Thank you.